Hello and welcome to the Crystal Palace Football Club history video. Before the video starts, please subscribe and like the video. And I'm sorry for the noise in the background, as my computer is, well, you could say it's playing up and it's downloading stuff onto a disc at the moment. Anyway, onto the show. The original Crystal Palace Football Club was an amateur team founded around 1861 and who competed in the first ever FA Cup, reaching the semi-finals where the team was eliminated by the Royal Engineers. The team disappeared from historical records after a 3-0 defeat to the Wanderers in the second round of the 1875 FA Cup. However, this was not the end of the association between Crystal Palace and the FA Cup. In 1895, the FA adopted a new permanent home for the final at the Crystal Palace, with the owners of the attraction reliant on tourist activity for their income. They sought fresh attractions for the venue and did not take long for the idea of forming their own team to play at the football ground to occur. This, a new club originally nicknamed the Glaziers, was formed on the 10th of September 1905 under the guidance of Aston Villa's Assistant Secretary Edmund Goodman. The club applied to enter the Football League alongside Chelsea and Southampton, but was the only unsuccessful team of the three. The club instead found itself in the Southern League Second Division for the 1905-06 season. The club was successful in its first season and was promoted to the First Division, crowned as champions. In their first season, Crystal Palace also played in the midweek United Counties League, finishing runner-up to Watford, and it was in this competition that the club played their first match, winning 3-0 away to New Brompton. Palace remained in the Southern League up until 1914, which was 100 years ago. Their one highlight, the 1907 shock first-round victory over Newcastle United in the FA Cup. The outbreak of World War I led to the army requesting the Crystal Palace, and the club was forced to move to the home of West Norwood FC in Herne Hill. 3 years later, the club moved again to the Nest due to the folding of Croydon Common FC. The club joined the Football League Third Division in 1920-21 season, finishing as champions and gaining promotion to the Second Division. Palace moved to the purpose-built stadium Selhurst Park in 1924, the ground the club still plays at today. The opening fixture at Selhurst Park was against Sheffield Wednesday. Palace losing 1-0 in front of the crowd of 25,000. Finishing 21st that season. The club was relegated to the Third Division South before World War II. Palace made good efforts at promotion, never finishing outside the top half of the table and finishing second on 3 occasions. They were less successful after the war, their highest position being 7th, and conversely on 3 occasions the club had to apply for re-election. The club remained in the Division 3 South until 1957, where league reorganisation would see the clubs in the bottom half of the table merge with them at the bottom half of the Division 3 North to form a new 4th Division. Palace finished 14th, just below the cut, and found themselves in the basement of English football. Their stay proved brief, with Arthur Rowe appointed manager. The 19... disc tray just opened for me there, thank you. The club remained in the Division 4th for just one season, where they got promotion in the 1960-61 season. I'm just going to put the disc back in. Although Rose stepped down for health reasons, the promotion proved a turning point in the club's history. Dick Graham and then Bert Head guided the club to successive promotions in 1963-64 and 1968-69 seasons, taking the club through the Second Division and into the heights of the First Division. And that's something I do not want popping up on the computer. Despite surviving in the top flight from 69 until 72, the club once again experienced great disappointment. Under the management of Malcolm Allison, the club were relegated in consecutive seasons, finding itself back in Division 3 for the 1974-75 season. It was under Allison that the club became nicknamed the Eagles, and they enjoyed a run in the semi-final of the 1975 FA Cup, beating Leeds and Chelsea along the way. Allison was sacked at the end of the 1975-76 campaign, and it was under Terry Vasball's management that Palace were promoted in 1976 and again in 1978 back up to the First Division. The club could not maintain their position in the top tier, however, and was relegated from the First Division in 1980-81 season. Considering after Ron Node's takeover from the club, Steve Coppell arrived as manager on 4th of June 1984, and under his stewardship and rebuilding the club achieved promotion via the playoffs back to the First Division in 1988. The club followed this up by reaching the 1990 FA Cup final, drawing 3-3 Manchester United in the first match, but losing the replay game 1-0. The club built on the success of the previous season in 1990 by achieving its highest league finish of third and returning to Wembley to win the Zenith Zeta Systems Cup. The club beat Everton 4-1 after extra time in the final, its only club win to date. The following season saw star striker Ian Wright leave the club for Arsenal. Palace finished 10th, allowing the club to become a founding member of the FA Premier League in 1992-93 season. The club sold Mark Bright to Sheffield Wednesday the following season, but failed to rebuild the squad, and Palace struggled to score throughout the season. The club found itself relegated with a record 49 points. Steve Coppell resigned and Alan Smith, his assistant at the club, took over. His first season saw the club win the First Division title and gain promotion to the Premier League. Their stay on the occasion proved eventful. On the 25th of January 1995, Palace played Manchester United at Selhurst Park, in which Eric Cantona was sent off. He was taunted by Palace fan Matthew Simmons and retaliated with a flying kick. Cantona was sentenced to 2 weeks in jail, reduced to 120 hours community service on appeal. Simmons was immediately banned from Selhurst Park and found guilty on 2 charges of threatening Cantona. More was to follow in March when Chris Armstrong was suspended by the FA for failing a drugs test. On the field, Alan Smith guided the club to the semi-finals of both FA Cup and League Cup, but league form was a concern and Palace once again found itself relegated, finishing 4th from bottom as the Premier League reduced from 22 to 20 clubs. Smith left the club and Steve Coppell returned as technical director in the summer of 1995, and through a combination of first-team coaching of Ray Learington and lately Dave Bassett's managership, Palace reached the playoffs. Palace lost the final in a dramatic fashion, Steve Claridge scoring a last-minute goal for Leicester City to win a tie 1-0. The following season saw Coppell take charge as the first-team manager when Dave Bassett departed for Nottingham Forest in early 1997. The club was successful in the playoffs at the second time of asking when the club defeated Sheffield United in the final at Wembley. This stay in the Premier League was no more successful than the previous 2, and in true yo-yo fashion, the club were relegated back to the First Division or Championship for the 1998-99 season. This season also saw the club plunge into administration when owner Mark Goldberg was unable to sustain his financial backing of the club. The club emerged from administration under the ownership of Simon Jordan, and Steve Coppell left the club, replaced once again by Alan Smith. The club flirted with relegation in Jordan's first season, 2002. Smith was sacked in April and Steve Kember managed to win the 2 remaining fixtures that would guarantee survival. Dougie Freedom scoring the winner in a 1-0 victory over Stockport in the 87th minute on the final day of the season. Steve Bruce was appointed manager for the 2001-2002 season. A good start to the season gave Palace hope for a promotion challenge, but Bruce attempted to walk out of the club just after 4 months at the helm to take charge of Birmingham City. After a short spell of gardening leave, Bruce was eventually allowed to join Birmingham City, succeeded by Trevor Francis, who had ironically been his precedor at Birmingham. Under Francis, Palace finished mid-table for 2 successive seasons, and Francis left, to be replaced by long-serving coach Steve Kember. Kember guided Palace to victories in their opening 3 games of the 2003-04 First Division campaign, which put Palace at the top of the table. but he was sacked in November after a terrible loss of form saw the team slip towards the relegation zone. Ian Dowie was appointed manager and guided the club to the playoffs, securing promotion with a 1-0 victory over West Ham. Again, Palace could not maintain their footing in the top tier and were relegated on the last day of the season after drawing at the local rivals Charlton Athletic. Jordan was unable to put the club on a sound financial footing after 2008, and the club was placed in administration once again in January 2010. The Football League's relegations saw the Eagles deducted 10 points, and administrators were forced to sell key players including Victor Moses and Jose Fonte. Survival in the Championship was only secured on the final day of the season after a memorable 2-2 draw at Sheffield Wednesday, which was itself relegated as a result. During the close season in 2010, a consortium consisting of several wealthy fans successfully they bought the club, led by Steve Parrish, the vocal representative for a consortium of 4 that included Jeremy Hoskin and Martin Long. CPFC 2010 also secured the freehold of the ground, the consortium paying tribute to the fans' campaign which helped pressure Lloyds Bank into selling the ground back to the club. The consortium swiftly installed George Burry as the Eagles' new manager. However, a poor start to the season saw the club hovering around the bottom of the table by December. On 1st of January 2011, after a 3-0 defeat to Millwall, Burry was sacked and his assistant Dougie Freedman named caretaker manager. Freedman was appointed manager on a full-time basis on the 11th of January 2011, with former Charlton boss Lenny Lawrence as his assistant and Tony Pobovic as a first-team coach. Palace edged up the table, and by securing a 1-1 draw at Hull City on the 30th of April, the club was safe from relegation, and with 1 game of the season left, Freedman departed to manage Bolton on the 23rd of October 2012, and in November, Ian Holloway became the club's manager. He guided Palace to the Premier League after an 8-year absence by defeating Watford Football Club 1-0 in the Championship playoff final. On October 23rd, 2013, Ian Holloway left his post as manager on mutual consent terms. This came after only managing 1 win in the first 9 games of the new season. Assistant manager Keith Millen was named caretaker manager while Palace searched for a new manager. On the 23rd of November 2013, former Stoke City boss Tony Pulis was confirmed as the new manager of Crystal Palace. As of the 19th of April 2014, Crystal Palace are mathematically safe from the relegation from the Premier League for the first time in 5 attempts. And that's where we've come to in the history today. When Crystal Palace first formed in 1905, they turned to one of the biggest clubs in the country at the time, Aston Villa, to seek advice. Villa gave them their colours, meaning they had the claret blue and red trim. However, through the 60s, they changed it to more of a Real Madrid sort of colour. However, they changed it to the colours we know today, inspired by Barcelona. The club was really late in establishing a crest, although the initials were embroidered onto the shirt from 1935-36 season. A crest featuring the facade of the Crystal Palace did not appear until 1955. The crest disappeared from the shirt in 1964, and the team's name embroidered on the shirts in 1967-72. In 72 saw a round badge adopted with the club's initials and the nickname the Glaziers, before Alisson changed this too. The nickname became the Eagles, inspired by the Portuguese club Benfica, and the badge adopted an eagle holding a ball. This emblem remained until 1987, when the club married the eagle with the Crystal Palace facade, and although updated in 1996 and again in 2013, the crest remains these features. And finally, on to their honours. Well, as you can see on the screen, they've been champions of the Division 2, now known as the Championship, in 1978-79 and 1993-94 season, coming runners-up in the 1968-69 season, and the playoff winners on 4 occasions. They've been Division 3 winners as well in 1920-21 season, and Division 4 when they got promoted by runners-up in 1960-61 season. They were FA Cup runners-up in 1990. However, the only cup they did win was the Zenith Data Systems Cup, what no longer exists, in 1991. All the rest are on the right. And before we go, again, if you haven't already, please subscribe and like the video, and please tune in for the next episode coming in about a week to a month's time, where we go to Everton for their football history. I'm Oliver Eaton, thank you for watching, goodbye.